إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. The final point under Isti'aanah is the proof. ودليل الاستعانة قوله تعالى: إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، وفي الحديث إذا استعنت فاستعن بالله. So he mentions an ayah in a hadith. The author rahimahullah uses for the ayah the verse in Surah Al-Fatiha: you alone we worship and you alone we appeal for aid. And for the hadith, he mentions the saying of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam: if you seek help, then seek help of Allah alone and only Allah. إذا استعنت فاستعن بالله. Let's take first the verse. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. إياك نعبد. If you remember with some previous proofs we took, this should have been, there's something switched around here. This should have been نعبدك ونستعينك instead of إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. It also should have been نعبدك ونستعينك instead of إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. But why is it إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين? There's a very big lesson in that. He mentions the word upon which the verb acts before the verb itself. He said إياك نعبد instead of نعبدك. The rule is أريد الحصر والقصر فقدم ما حقه التأخير. أريد الحصر والقصر فقدم ما حقه التأخير. According to the principles of the Arabic grammar, the language which the Quran of course was revealed in, bringing forward what I just told you earlier, bringing forward that which usually comes afterwards indicates restriction and particularization. تقديم ما حقه التأخير يفيد الحصر والقصر. Remember how many times, I believe we went over it twice, but it's okay to keep going over it so it'll stick and be embedded in our minds. The words were switched around to stress and emphasize that directing ibadah or isti'anah is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Most High. And it's shirk to give it to other than Allah. It only belongs to Allah. It's to stress that fact, only to Allah. Let me give you an example outside the Quran, outside the verses of the Quran. Maybe that'll help you understand. In Arabic, you say ضربت زيدا. I hit Zayd. First you say I hit, then you say the name. I hit Muhammad. I hit Salih. However, you can flip them around. You can flip it around to say زيدا ضربت. يعني لا غيره. When you flip them around, and that's not common, the more common is the other way, the first way that I told you. When you flip them around, it means you're trying to stress the fact that the only one you hit was Zayd or Salih or whoever you mentioned. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين is not نعبدك ونستعينك, because this is a dangerous matter of shirk, and it's to stress that you only worship Allah and only Allah. You only give Allah your isti'anah and your ibadah. And you only seek your aid from Allah. It's switched around to restrict and particularize and emphasize ibadah and isti'anah to Allah alone. إياك نعبد. إياك نعبد, Ibn Abbas said, means you alone Allah we worship, and you alone Allah we fear, and we have hope in no one other than you. إياك نعبد, just as it appears to declare that we worship Allah alone, it also declares that we renounce shirk. Just as it declares we worship Allah alone, it declares that we renounce shirk. Because Tawheed is إثبات النفي. إياك نستعين. We declare with that no one has the right and power to assist us but Allah. You alone we seek and appeal for assistance. You alone, Ya Allah, we seek and appeal for assistance. Why did he say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ? You alone we worship and you alone we appeal for aid. Why wasn't it you flipped around? Why wasn't it you alone we appeal for aid and you alone we worship? He mentioned na'bud before nasta'in. The ulama said it's because ibadah is more important. Now, another question. We said isti'anah is a worship. Isti'anah. All our talk today is a worship. It's about a worship, the ibadah of isti'anah. We've been saying, as I say in every one of the last few classes, we're going over the 14 matters of ibadah, of worship, that the author chose as examples. Isti'anah is one. It's our topic today. It's called and considered a worship. So why is the verse, we worship you only and we seek your aid only, Ya Allah? Had it been we worship you, had it been إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ right there, period, wouldn't that also include the following worship, which is isti'anah? Wouldn't that be included as a ibadah? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ Nasta'een, isti'anah is included in the ibadah. Appealing for his aid, isti'anah, is part of ibadah. It's part of إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ. Why did he mention it separately if it's already included in إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ? There's three reasons some ulama mentioned. The first reason is what you call mentioning the broad matter, which is إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ, mentioning the broad matter, which is إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ, then emphasizing a special or important or essential matter, which is إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You get that better if I tell you another verse. حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Guard your prayers and your middle prayer. He said, guard your prayers and the middle prayer. Isn't the middle prayer already? Had he said guard your prayers, period, wouldn't that include the middle prayer? Of course it's included. The reason he specified the middle prayer, even though it's included in the prayers, is to emphasize the special salah or important salah, which is the middle salah. Another example. If a mother has 3 children, 4 children, and she sends them off with a babysitter or a relative or a friend to the park or somewhere, or to sleep the night over her sister's house. One of them may be an infant or sick, for example. She's going to say, take care of my kids. And then she's going to say, take care of Muhammad, or be careful with Muhammad. Isn't Muhammad part of her kids? Isn't Muhammad included when she said, take care of my kids? Of course. But what she means is, pay extra special attention to Muhammad, or Muhammad's important, or there's something about Muhammad that you need to take care of. That's one reason. Another reason some ulama mentioned for mentioning both, even though isti'anah is included as a ibadah, is because the first one, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ, ibadah here, is purely a right of Allah. It's a right of Allah purely. Whereas isti'anah, yes, it's a right of Allah purely, but it relates to the servant in that he's also asking aid for himself from Allah. That's another reason. And a third reason some ulama mentioned is even though isti'anah is included in إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ, it's still mentioned because you need isti'anah in every aspect of your ibadah. You affirmed إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ because you could never, ever, ever do ibadah without isti'anah. So Allah without Allah aiding you, there's no ibadah. If Allah does not give you awn, isti'anah, your isti'anah that you seek, can you do ibadah? You can't. So it was mentioned after that because it's essential in you making your ibadah.